My name is Frank Janko. I'm an artist living in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, along the beautiful Gulf Coast. And we are visiting my studio today and showing you a few of the paintings I just exhibited at the Mary C. O'Keefe Museum in Ocean Springs this past fall. A small version of my Shearwater Pottery series. Shearwater Pottery, of course, the famous cobalt blue glazes with the dogwoods.
When did you start painting?
Chinese print. I started painting when I was I was drawing in class when I was young. When I was about 11 or 12, I was drawing. And I started painting when I was 15. Started studying with a professional artist from New Orleans. His name was Frank Frederico. He was a character.
Did you grow up here?
Yeah, I grew up on the coast.
Okay.
Yes. Can't you tell by my accent?
Not really.
Well, you see, I moved to New York when I was 25, so I lost my charming Southern accent. I've been painting since I was young, quite young, and I was technically a professional when I was 16 years old. And at a certain moment, I realized that I really wanted an academic background foundation, so I moved to New York. In 1975, I was 25 years old. I went to art school. I'd like to say I'm self-taught, but I actually went to art school at the Art Students League in New York City, 57th Street. And over here, we have my At the Museum series. This was in Berlin, where the Germans stole the Manet painting and never returned it. So it's still in the Berlin Museum. Yeah, remember the Monuments Men? That famous movie with George Clooney? Well, this is part of the monuments. And this woman who happened to be passing by with this pink scarf, at the moment I thought, this is perfect because it picks up the pink and the flowers in the background, and I think Manet would have approved.
Is this done by memory or you take photos?
I took photos, yeah, and memory too. I use both.
So you took a photo of her standing there, then you painted it from that?
Yes, essentially. I change it a bit, and I changed things about the pose and this painting was inspired by the street La Rue de Seine
in Paris,
in the left bank of Paris, in the Saint-Germain-des-Prés area. And a friend of mine assisted in the animation of this scene by walking up and down the street whilst we fed the pigeons with a French baguette. And that's how the pigeons were composed around her. They were in constant desire of the French baguette, n'est-ce pas?
Did you take a photo and paint off that?
Now I did take some reference photos, but I did several watercolor sketches, yes. Not currently teaching in France, however I have an ongoing request to teach in France, and recently it's been in the Loire Valley, at a small chateau in the Loire Valley, about 15 minutes from Leonardo da Vinci's chateau. Yes, good reference. Huh?
Yeah, he's probably not using it anymore.
He's not there too often. We look for him, but they have many of his inventions outside in the front of his chateau. It's a very interesting place. Yeah. Well, this is a commission. Maybe we can bring it in the other room where the light is better. But this is a commission requested by a gentleman who had purchased this property with a doctor colleague of his and their family. Actually, it's right to the east of Shorter Pottery, he was telling me, but he wanted to, before they built their house, he requested it was a present for his wife, birthday present. Then started traveling to France, teaching in France, actually teaching a little bit later in the 80s and into the 90s. And working, painting in Provence, bringing my paintings back and exhibiting them in America.
Where did you exhibit mostly?
At the time, I was living in New York, Connecticut, so I was exhibiting in galleries in New York City and Connecticut.
Do you regret coming back here?
Oh no. It was timing is so important in life, and that it was a good time to return back. And let's see, it's been about 15 years. Or I was living in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a wonderful town for artists to live, and commuting to France every summer to teach my workshops in the south of France. My style, my recent definition is poetic realism.
And what does that mean?
My tenets and direction is essentially realism. Not photographic realism so much, but realism as perceived by the eye, by the human eye. Content-wise, I like to infuse with color, with design, and with content, subject matter, if you will, into my work to give it what I feel has meaning and depth in my perspective of the world. Well, this is inspired by going to lunch in Chinatown in Paris, in the Left Bank, where they have a gathering of the Asian culture, mostly Vietnamese, I believe, where you have many wonderful Vietnamese restaurants. And I was struck by the storefronts.
Tell us about what inspires your work.
Well, to put it in very simple terms, being an artist is somewhat like a mission. You're not doing it as a career per se, but it's more like a calling, if you want to put it that way. And it's looking for meaning of life, looking for beauty, pulling out what attracts you to the visual world in terms of color, form, composition, and content too.